You'll love what you hear. You'll love what you hear. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 30 of the Untold Tales Audio Anthologies podcast. This is Melissa Del Toro Schaffner, and I am the narrator for our podcast. And I am so excited to be coming to you here in the new year, 2021. I know that last year was a really challenging year. It's still going to be challenging for a little bit longer, I think. But I'm so glad that you're here with me. And this episode is just basically to sort of summarize what happened last year with the podcast, what's coming up this year, and some of the goals I personally have for myself and for you who are listening to my voice. If you ever want to connect, just want to spend a little time here connecting with you and letting you know what's going on behind the scenes. So if you're not here, you don't see that I have a few notes to make sure that I stay on target. But I just wanted to thank you so much this year for listening to us and for making us a part of your entertainment life. Jeff Robinson and I have had such a great year bringing you these stories every month. We thoughtfully choose for you what we'd like to put on air, and we're getting really positive feedback from you. So thank you. So this is the end of season 1 and the beginning of season 2, and a little personal backstory for you. I'm a voice actor, and Untold Tales has been such a blessing because it's a way of me bringing to you some of the stories that I love and bringing to you also my voice acting talents and abilities and refining those as I go along. So I hope that you have seen through the past year improvement in my narration skills and my storytelling abilities. So I don't know if you go back to episode 0, episode 1, and then listen all the way through to episode 29. I hope that you see growth in me, and I hope that you feel like there's some growth in our connection as a listening audience. So thank you so much for that. So in some of my stories, just as a personal confession, they've been really, really challenging for me because whenever you're in your kitchen or in your house or at an event and you're being funny and making character voices, it's very relaxed and all of that. But whenever you're telling a story to a worldwide audience, as I am doing for you every month, I bring you 3 stories, and it's putting myself out there a little bit. So I really appreciate the positive feedback that I've gotten on the performance and the voices that I've chosen for a lot of the characters. So in this new year, I have set some really big goals for myself, and I'd really like to connect with more people who are needing people like me, needing voice actors for their materials. So I personally am looking for opportunities in narration and e-learning and animation. And so if you know anybody who's doing animated shorts or people who are doing instructional design, e-learning modules, filmmakers, authors, people doing book trailers, podcast trailers, all of that. If you love what you heard on the podcast, whenever you listen to my voice, I would love for you to pass on my information or pass on this podcast so that people can have an experience with me and with Jeff's stories and with the material. And hopefully we can connect and have some beautiful, beautiful collaborations with that. So I have a few data points for you, data people out there, some facts and figures about our podcast. So this past year, we've been airing podcast episodes for 9 months now, 29 episodes. We have reached 28 countries in the world, and I thank you so much. If you're on that list of countries who has tuned in, I am still looking for Africa to join the listenership, and I'm still looking for many more countries in Asia, and there's so many more countries in South America. And so if you have friends and family that live in those places that are sci-fi enthusiasts, we would just love for you to let them know about our stories. There are over 1,500 downloads on Untold Tales, which is amazing for the first year, especially since we've been in lockdown. I think that a lot of people listen to podcasts on the go more than they do when they're at home and they have other things to do. So that's just a hunch. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments below. But yeah, thank you for putting us on the map. Some insider details that you may not know are that the top 3 episodes on this podcast are episode 21, which is Death Wish. It is a story that's very dear to the writer's heart. So thank you for putting that at number 1. It's very meaningful. Number 2, The Way Station, episode 16. And I'm just going to look at my phone here because the Way Station actually comes in 2 segments, and episode 16 happens to be part 2 of 2 episodes. So ironically enough, part 2 played 2 times more than part 1. So one of the lessons I learned from that is that if we have these 2-part episodes, either to put them together or to release them on separate days, because it seems like whenever you get an indication of a new episode coming up, that's the episode you listen to. So a lot of you, over half of you, have only listened to the second half of The Way Station. So go back and listen to the first part, because then you'll get some context. Apparently it holds its own. So the third episode that's the most popular from last year, 2020, was episode 1, Ripples in Time. That's an amazing story, and I encourage you to go check that out. It's very heartfelt, and it might even bring a tear to your eye. And so this year, we will be bringing on some amazing new authors to our podcast. Jeff has been vetting some new authors to come onto our podcast, and we know that you'll enjoy and will love what you hear with these new authors just as much as you've loved what you've heard with the stories in the last year. We strive to keep these stories super high quality, super short, so you can listen to them while you're doing the dishes or driving to the store. That's the goal behind it, is to keep these stories very, very accessible to you and to your loved ones and friends and families. Some of the things we've learned for you data people on this podcast, Untold Tales Audio Anthologies podcast, is that over half of our listenership is women. So it could be potentially because of my voice. I'm not sure. I was really surprised by that metric because it's a sci-fi podcast, and I didn't know there are a bunch of nerdy women out there like me. So that's really exciting to know. Our listenership is primarily 45 years old and over. So this year, I would love to see some of the younger people jump onto the podcast. And if you know somebody who loves to listen to stories or audiobooks and they love sci-fi, they may just love this podcast. Let's see here. Let's see. Platforms. So I talk to a lot of people who don't even really know how to listen to a podcast. So clearly they wouldn't probably be listening to this episode or the podcast. But for those of you that are within our listening reach, Apple Podcasts and quote unquote other platforms are the over 60% of what you guys are listening on this podcast. So in the comments, or if you could let me know what you listen on, that would really help us out to make sure that you're getting the listening experience you want. We have listed the Untold Tales podcast on every podcast playing platform that we're aware of. If there's one that you listen to that it's not on there, again, we'd love to know that. You can email me at melissa@melissadeltoro.com. That'll be in the show notes as well. So some things to look for in season 2 as we move forward together and as we grow and expand, is that we will be doing something super, super, super awesome on the 21st of this month, January 21st, 2021. We will be having our very first premiere, and you can check that out on our social media channels, primarily YouTube. We have a YouTube channel playlist underneath Melissa Del Toro International, which is my narrating channel. So we have an open call for submissions. So If you or anyone that you know is a sci-fi short story writer, we would love for you to connect with us and have one of your stories read here on the podcast. So check that out. I will put the link for the open call to submission in the show notes. And if that's something that you'd love to submit a short story for, we would love to hear your short stories. And finally, we will be putting more background music, more sound effects on our podcast, and we will be collaborating with more artists and creatives on the podcast. So look out for that in the new year, 2021. We wish you all of the blessings and love and hope that a new year has to offer. But we also look forward to connecting with more of you and your friends and family. And we know that you will love what you hear. As always, we love our listeners, fans, and patrons, and we hope that you will join our communities. I have a Patreon community that is growing, and we are looking for more people to join in the conversations. And I post special content that I don't put anywhere on social media in our Patreon community. So there's also going to be some merch and stuff like that available. So if you're interested in connecting more with me and learning more about the behind the scenes process, we'd love to see you in there. So that link will be in the show notes as well. So I hope that you have a great day, and thanks so much for listening. Have a wonderful day. See ya. You'll love what you hear. You'll love what you hear.